Over the last few weeks, I've seen countless comments asking the same question: where did the Roblox YouTuber Parlo go? It's been almost 3 weeks since he last uploaded, and today I'm going to answer that question. To put it simply, on September 11th, Parlo was falsely arrested by the UK police after a wave of false reports connected to the dupe situation were made. If you're unfamiliar with what that situation is, I'll explain everything in this video and show you why this was a gross misuse of the justice system and how the UK police were misled and abused their authority in an attempt to find something that wasn't there. But before we get into all of that, I need your help to make sure that the truth actually gets out. Please make sure to like the video out. With that and explain what being said, let's get into the video. Now, before we talk about the arrest itself, let's go back and explain what the dupe situation actually was, because this entire false arrest revolves around that. Earlier this year, Parlo announced that he would be making a video about Pyrocynical, exposing all the allegations that Pyrocynical managed to escape accountability for. Specifically, the allegations, with just one of the many insane accusations being Pyrocynical having a romantic relationship with the 14-year-old while he was 18, and even admitted that he was willing to wait until they turned 16 to make things official. That kind of behavior is very clearly, and Parlo was calling it out publicly. However, instead of people supporting him for taking a stand, many began to harass him for simply speaking up, and this is where things took a darker turn, because that's also how the dupe situation first surfaced. In April of 2025, a person named Dupe went onto the Pyrocynical subreddit and started spreading false claims about Parlo. In his post, Dupe claimed that Parlo, when he was 19 years old, tried to meet up with Dupe, who claimed he was first purposes. Dupe, however, lied about everything and left out the fact that he told Parlo he was 17, which would have been nothing more than a normal high school relationship.
I mean, we need some proof.
Legal and appropriate. What would actually happen was the complete opposite of what Dupe tried to make it look like. He claimed he was younger than what he originally said, and that single lie spiraled completely out of control. People who already hated Parlo jumped on that misinformation, twisting it into a fake narrative that spread across Twitter, Reddit, and Discord. Now, what Dupe did on that subreddit wasn't just a simple post, it was a full-blown smear campaign. He claimed Parlo was 19 and that he was only at the time they supposedly interacted, completely fabricating both the timeline and his own age. But here's the reality. Dupe had spent over a year pretending to be 17, even telling Parlo multiple times that he was turning 18 soon. And it wasn't just a one-time lie. These messages clearly show Dupe saying things like, "I'll be 18 in a year," and "I'm 17, turning 18. These weren't accidents. These were deliberate lies repeated over and over again to make Parlo believe he was talking to another older teenager. Parlo had no reason to think otherwise. Dupe acted like a mature person, talking about drinking, trauma, and even working a job, things a 20-year-old wouldn't realistically talk about or even know in detail. Dupe played the role of a 17-year-old perfectly, and it was all intentional. But once Parlo started calling out Pyrocynical, everything changed. Dupe suddenly came out publicly, twisting the whole story and making it sound like Parlo, a 19-year-old, had knowingly dated a 20-year-old. He posted it to Pyrocynical's subreddit, and it instantly went viral, gaining over 3,000 upvotes. The post accused Parlo of being a hypocrite, saying he
karma forming
for a 4-year age gap while dating a 20-year-old himself. That statement wasn't just misleading, it was a complete lie. Because of this, people started calling Parlo up, flooding his replies with disgusting comments like him and "guess it's not so funny when it happens to him, you should." These weren't just harmless insults, these were career-ending, life-destroying accusations, all built on false claims. Even worse, well-known figures like Nathrix, who had been accused of far worse himself, jumped in to spread the same narrative, calling Parlo a without ever checking the facts. The irony of someone like him spreading that narrative speaks for itself. And to make things even more disturbing, this whole dupe story didn't come out of nowhere. It was boosted by groups like the UTTP, a community infamous for faking tweets, doctoring screenshots, and fabricating fake evidence against YouTubers. These are the same people who used Inspect Element to make it look like Parlo had admitted to having illegal material at a time when Parlo didn't even have control of his own social media accounts because of his father hijacking them. So what happened next was predictable. People took those fake screenshots and dupe lies, combined them, and built an entire false narrative that painted Parlo as a monster. But when you look at the facts, the messages, the timelines, and even Dupe's own words where he retracted what he said, the truth is obvious. Parlo was manipulated, not malicious. Now, I do want to make one thing clear. When I personally read some of these messages myself, I'll be completely honest, some of them weirded me out. There were parts where I felt uncomfortable or they were really hard to read, and I completely understand why people had mixed reactions when they first saw them. But that's exactly the problem here. People see the messages without the context, and that context completely changes how they're interpreted. Those messages don't show They show confusion, manipulation, and a person who was lied to. It's okay to feel uncomfortable.
I mean, there's no
reading them.
context,
I did
then
too,
it's a
but being
pretext.
uncomfortable doesn't make Parlo guilty of anything. What matters is intent and truth, and both prove that this entire narrative was built on lies. Now that we've gone through the dupe situation, cleared up the lies behind it, let's talk about how this whole thing escalated into Parlo's wrongful arrest. This next part shows just how far people were willing to go, even to the point of filing false police reports. The person responsible for starting all of this is Natspop, who played a massive role in spreading misinformation and pushing false claims directly to UK authorities. Before Parlo was detained, Natspop began publicly boasting on social media about how local authorities were stepping in against Parlo, and even claimed that multiple police departments were now involved in a case against him. In these posts, Natspop repeatedly called Parlo a massive manipulative liar, and claimed that no local authorities are on his side, and insisted that Parlo was milking the schlep and pyrocynical drama to distract from his own crimes. These weren't just random tweets, these were calculated lies meant to make people believe that Parlo was facing a legitimate investigation, when in reality, the entire case was based on false and misleading information. After we confronted him, Natspop's own emails to the police were exposed, and they made it clear that the entire thing was built on lies. In those emails, he provided only 2 screenshots showing Parlo saying he wanted to meet up with Dupe at a hotel. But here's the key detail that he deliberately left out. At the time, Parlo was 19 years old and Dupe had told him that he was 17. That's a legal relationship in the UK. The age of consent in the UK is 16, and both Parlo and Dupe were living there, meaning that legally, there was nothing inappropriate about that interaction according to the law. But instead of telling the police the full story, Natspop twisted it. He told them that Dupe was at the time and Parlo knew that he was talking to a 2-year-old, which is a complete fabrication. He intentionally left out messages where Dupe clearly says he's 17 turning 18 soon, messages that completely disprove the entire claim. In other words, Natspop manipulated the police by submitting evidence that was taken completely out of context and by lying about Dupe's real age. He didn't care about truth or justice. He cared about destroying Parlo's reputation, no matter how many lies it took. Now, while the police did open a case based on what he sent, it's crucial to understand that the case itself is built on false pretenses. It's not a case backed by real evidence, it's a case fueled by manipulated screenshots, half-truths, and false statements made by people who have been trying to ruin Parlo for months. And what is truly shocking is that instead of fact-checking the claims or verifying the evidence first, UK authorities acted on this misinformation. That's what ultimately led to Parlo's wrongful detainment on September 11th. When we confronted Natspop about the police report, it became very clear that he didn't just make a mistake that most people would make, he knowingly withheld key information from law enforcement.
So they were like, okay, we're going to transfer you to another department, and they went to police, right? So I went to police and I told them same story that I gave to a COP. They were like, okay. They brought me to a detective named whatsoever. So he was the one who was taking care of the situation. He gave me questions like, do you know Parlo and Dupe online in person? So those common questions that they asked before they started the whole thing. So I gave them all the answers they could. Just okay, we're gonna investigate. I gave them the document. I said he sent in. That's what I did in my response to this. So he was like, okay, we're gonna investigate into it and stuff. And that's where they were like, okay, well, we're going to transfer you with someone else. A month later or 2, I don't know. The police contacted me. Out of the blue, they contacted me. I did not contact them. I don't know why they contacted me. They probably did what do they call this? Subpoena or something like that? I don't know. Probably. Yeah, probably not, but probably I don't even know what happened because they told me, they mentioned to me that they cannot share the full thing that's happening on that investigation whatsoever.
During the confrontation, Nats openly admitted that he was the one who reported Parlo to multiple UK police departments. He explained that when he first reached out to the CEOP, aka the Online Protection Command, and then later contacted police, before the report was eventually passed on to police, who later got in touch with him directly. But here's where things started to completely fall apart for him.
The first screenshot is the one where Parlo was asking Dupe where they could meet up in a hotel. And then the second screenshot that you provided was Parlo saying that he wanted to make out with Dupe in a hotel. And again, in these same emails, you haven't once clarified that Dupe lied about his age.
And those were the 2 screenshots shown on the piece of paper as well.
When asked about the evidence he submitted, Nats confirmed that the only screenshots he sent to the police were 2 messages from Parlo, one where he asked Dupe about meeting at a hotel, and another where he said he wanted to make out with him. That's it. Those were the only 2 messages messages that Nat submitted. He didn't send any of the messages where Dupe claimed to be 17. He didn't mention anywhere that Dupe lied about his age. He didn't even provide the part where Dupe said he was turning 18 soon. Instead, he presented the situation as if Parlo knowingly planned to meet up with the 12-year-old.
No, again, said I haven't highlighted enough to say that he lied. I haven't mentioned a lot that he was lying about his age.
Okay, so again, just for some extra clarification, were you fully aware that Dupe lied about his age when you made this report?
Yes, I was fully aware.
When confronted about this, Nats admitted that he was fully aware Dupe had lied about his age at the time of making the report, but said he didn't highlight it enough.
So how many times have you communicated with this officer that you spoke with through email?
Like 5 times.
5 times, and not one of those times you actually mentioned that Dupe lied about his age? Just to clarify.
I did not mention it, no. The only time that I mentioned was on the description.
He also admitted that he never once brought it up in the emails he sent to the police, and the only place he supposedly mentioned it was in a vague text box when he originally submitted the report. But keep in mind, he couldn't even provide any proof of that claim, so he may as well have been lying.
What did you hope would happen to Parlo as a result of this report?
Well, at least like a bit of responsibility, at least legally, like at least like and not in a bad way possible, like at least like an arrest or something like that, something like for him to take responsibility for.
So you wanted Parlo to get arrested, yes?
Yes, in terms of putting responsibility.
It's just a yes or no. I mean, okay. So again, just for clarification, you wanted him to get arrested for this.
Yes.
At one point, once Parlo left the call, Nats even admitted that he wanted Parlo to be arrested. When asked directly if this was his intention when filing the report, he said, quote, "Yes, I wanted him to get arrested." That right there tells you everything you need to know. That this wasn't about justice, and it wasn't about concern. This was about revenge.
I retract all my comments that I made, all the statements that I've made, all the tweets that I've made, pretty much everything that I said.
What are your next steps from here? What are you going to do?
In terms of what?
In terms of like the police investigation, are you going to contact them to notify them that you lied essentially?
Yes, I will.
When Nats was pressed further about the tweets where he publicly called Parlo Nats completely backtracked. By the end of the call, he fully retracted every claim he had made about Parlo, including all of his public posts, and even agreed to contact the police to clarify that the information he provided was misleading and incomplete.
So technically, what you filed was a false police report. You excluded extremely important information that, in the end, is going to waste a lot of police resources and a lot of their time. And on top of that,
it's called
Parlo's time,
pretext.
Parlo's money, and Parlo's reputation.
Okay.
Are you aware of that? Do you acknowledge that fully?
I know. I do acknowledge. Yes, I do acknowledge.
He also acknowledged that what he did wasted police time and resources and admitted that he never should have filed a report in the first place. This call confirmed exactly what we already suspected, that Parlo's detainment wasn't the result of an actual investigation or legitimate evidence, it was the result of a false report filled with misleading information made by someone who was fully aware of the truth but chose to hide it. After the call, Natspop's behavior only got worse. Instead of taking accountability for the false report he had filed, he immediately started backtracking, trying to twist his own words and deny what he had already admitted on recording. He started claiming that he never said the report was false, even though during the call he clearly acknowledged that filing a report without mentioning Dupe's lies was a crime. He even tried to argue that it wasn't his fault because according to him, the authorities should have caught that. That statement alone shows how unserious he was about the gravity of what he did. He openly admitted to leaving out documents that mentioned Dupe lying about his age, but then turned around and said that the police were the ones who didn't read it properly. That's not how it works. When you submit evidence to law enforcement, you're expected to provide the full truth. Not half of it, not a quarter of it, the full truth. By filtering what he gave them, Nat shaped the narrative the police saw, and that is exactly what made it a false police report. When I pressed him further on the Google Drive link he sent to the police, the same one attached in the email to Officer, he refused to show what he had actually provided. That response alone tells you everything you need to know. He never cared about truth or fairness. He cared about getting Parlo in trouble, no matter how much he had to lie to make that happen. The entire situation proves that Natspop wasn't acting out of moral concern, he was acting out of malice. He purposely withheld context, gave police misleading information, and when confronted, tried to play the victim. And the worst part, because of his lies, the UK police actually acted on that misinformation, which leads to what happened next. Parlo getting falsely arrested. Now, I'm gonna be completely honest, what I said initially wasn't a lie. Parlo did actually get 2 community guideline strikes, which kind of happened at the worst time possible. A privated video of Parlo's got a community guideline strike completely out of nowhere, and this happened on September 10th. Now, because of this strike, Parlo and I stayed on the phone during the day while we were trying to appeal that strike, and usually it's actually why we censor ourselves so much in our videos, because YouTube's guidelines are not very fun to deal with. Anyways, after all that happened, still on September 10th at 7:04 p.m. my time, and Parlo's 5 hours ahead of me, which was actually 12 in the morning for him, I was told by Parlo that his family members had been swatted. Now, at the time, we had no idea what was going on. It was September 11th, 12 in the morning for him, and randomly, 8 bomb vans pulled up to one of Parlo's family members' homes asking for Parlo. This obviously freaked out Parlo's family because they had no idea what was going on. So September 10th went from being a very upsetting day for Parlo because of the community guideline strike to being a genuine concern for his family's safety because he randomly thought he got swatted. But it was actually much, much worse than that. At September 11th at 2 in the morning, Parlo and I got another call trying to appeal a strike while talking about what happened earlier in the day. Now, during that call, when we were trying to file that appeal to YouTube, something absolutely insane happened. While writing the appeal, out of nowhere, Parlo looked outside of his window and he saw a bunch of red and blue flashing lights. There were tons of police cars outside of his house with many vans, many cars, and many officers with full-on tactical gear and rifles. At that point, Parlo went on mute. He came back and he told me that he had to leave the call because the police were telling him to get off the phone and shut off all of his devices. And then the call ended. I just sat there completely stunned because I had no clue what was going on or what just happened. Later on, I found out from one of Parlo's close friends that he was actually detained and kept in a holding cell for around 12 hours until the following morning. He was forced to sleep in a police cell because of a false report. Now, to be clear here, Parlo hasn't told me much about the investigation itself. He legally can't. Usually, in cases like this, police confiscate your devices as part of the investigation. Sometimes there's even a bail condition where you're not allowed to contact anyone under the age of 18. I can't confirm if that's what happened here, but based on how these cases usually work, I honestly wouldn't be surprised if that's what he's dealing with right now. Parlo's life was completely turned upside down because of this, all because of one person, Natspop, filing a false and misleading police report that twisted the truth. That one lie led to a full-on police operation and a wrongful detainment. Now, weeks after this happened, and earlier we spoke about this, Parlo and I confronted Natspop directly, something we already talked about earlier in the video like I just said. During that confrontation, Natspop admitted everything. He admitted that he was the one who filed the report, he admitted that he left out crucial evidence showing that Dupe lied about his age, and he even acknowledged that doing that made the report false. That conversation confirmed everything we knew. The entire so-called case against Parlo was never real to begin with. It was built entirely on lies, manipulation, and a deliberate attempt to ruin Parlo's life. And I want to be completely honest here. I've been talking to Parlo for a long time. We've been friends for about a year after all of our drama from years ago. Every time we're on call, I can tell that he's tired of YouTube, tired of the harassment, tired of waking up every day and seeing people call him a on Twitter when he's done nothing wrong. Sometimes we'd be just playing Fortnite talking about normal stuff, and then out of nowhere he'd go quiet because he'd see another thread about him. Another false accusation, another person repeating the same that's been debunked 100 times. People don't understand how damaging this is. False accusations ruin lives, and especially when you target someone who's already been through a lot, someone who's openly struggled with depression and thoughts in the past, it becomes serious. I don't know what Parlo's next step is, but honestly, and I mean this, I think he needs to sue Natspop and everyone else who keeps pushing out these lies. This has gone way too far. He's made video after video debunking everything, putting out all the evidence, showing all the proof, and yet people won't stop. At some point, enough is enough. If Parlo is watching this video, and I'm sure he probably is, I just want to say this directly. You need to take legal action. You've done your part explaining everything to the public, you've cleared your name more times than anyone should ever have to, and now it's time to set a precedent. Show everyone that spreading false allegations, fabricating reports, and trying to ruin someone's life has real consequences. Because this community needs to learn, you can't just destroy someone's reputation without evidence and get away with it. And this whole situation doesn't just apply to Parlo. There are so many YouTubers out there who expose big games, expose big YouTubers, and each and every every time, they always end up experiencing some level of harassment. Now, I tried asking Parlo what he plans on doing with YouTube, if he's going to continue uploading or what he's going to even do. I never really got a concrete answer on what he's going to do. I know that in the meantime, he is taking some break to deal with the whole situation. Hopefully, he's going to be taking legal action. Again, I have no idea what's going to happen. In the meantime, his editors just finished the Pyrocynical videos, so I do know that that is coming up pretty soon. I think this is where I'll be ending off the video. If you made it this far into the video,